Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, our online TV program where we get to celebrate and showcase a lot of people who are impacting lives positively. Yes, this is me, Kemi Akiode Adebayo, aka Mama K. In today's program, we continue to celebrate South African Women's Month. Yes, this is part 2, and we have such dynamic people who are doing wonderful things in the community. Yes, this is a pre-recorded conversations that I had with two amazing people again. I always have amazing people on the show. Yes, so Miss Sylvia Mama, she's the chairperson and founder for Universal Change for Albinism Noble based in Cape Town. And Miss Zoe George, she's a vibrant young radio presenter who is a final year law student as well at UNISA. Enjoy. What were some of the difficulties for you growing up?
Having to grow up with albinism condition in a community where everybody's black, it's totally different. More than special because there are so many myths about albinism people. So now I grow up and I'm short-sighted. And whatever that is happening, even at home, inside at home, I can't see whatever that is breaking, and then I'm the one who blames.
And the short-sightedness is one of the kind of condition for people with albinism, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the short sighted and then the hair and then the skin
color,
the sensitive skin color. Yes. So although you can find persons with albinism in like having only one part of it, well, like hair, the challenges, and then you find that the others is short sighted, but they are having they are pigmented. So, but they have, so there's different names also when you call them, but also they're affected by albinism condition. So now going back to challenges, at school it was difficult because I cannot see at the board. So now I have to sit in front. Sometimes even now that I'm sitting in front, it's difficult to see on the board. And at that time it was challenging because even the teachers could not understand. They did not have the knowledge that maybe it is available now everywhere. So it was challenging. In the community, you can't even have, it's difficult to have a boyfriend because even your boyfriend, they will call him names, or you cannot use, do you understand what I'm saying? So everywhere. And then you will be called names. There is a name that in Xhosa, they will call it like, I'm an ape. They call it an ape. So, but they call it Inkawu in Xhosa, but it's an ape when you translate. So I grew up like that. So I would be challenged at home. It's challenges because remember I said, my father and my mother were not like from there. So I grew up with the older sisters already. So now even there it was a challenge. My mother did not understand nothing about me. And then there was no available
She probably
knowledge.
felt ashamed as well.
She said at first she was she didn't know what to do, how to handle me. She used to cover me because she was working sleep in all her life. So I was staying with her, and some of the time there was a time that I stayed with her. So she used to cover me in the public.
So even people don't see you.
Yes, even at home, if someone is knocking and there she's having me, and then she will go and hide me in the room and close and then open again. But people hear that as a child. So one day, a lady at the bus stop, they opened me, and then so her secret was revealed, and then that's how she could now carry me without covering me. But nevertheless, one of the challenges that I couldn't further my studies at school because she didn't see a need for her to send me to school because where will I be working?
Probably in school, with this and everything else. Yes.
Where will I work? Who's going to hire me? So her,
she was already thinking that at that time.
She didn't even see a need for me to finish my high school. She used to even switch off her electricity. I had to study with a candle.
And somebody that is already short-sighted and using candles to even...
That's the thing. So those are the challenges that I was having in my life at home.
And how did you manage to navigate all that? So did you finish school? Did you go to school?
Fortunately enough, I finished my high school.
Awesome.
And then I've studied for a year in Cape College. I was doing public administration.
Okay.
And then I furthered my studies when I was working for Metro Rail, because I worked for Metro Rail for 13 years.
Okay. So you did get a job.
I did.
So even though some of our fears about, will she get a job? There's no need, which was maybe for her because it's something she was not aware of. She was ignorant, about
that. If I can say it, yes. She was ignorant, and a part of those challenges made me the woman I am today. Because I grew up, I was determined to say I want to prove them wrong. So I didn't want the challenges to overcome me or to determine my future or to shape my future. So I told myself that if I need to do it, I'll do it. So that's why I'm saying even this organization is you can do.
What would you say is albinism? Just to educate us, is it genetic? Is it something that is passed on? Is it something you develop? What is it?
Okay. First of all, albinism, there's no specific name to explain thoroughly albinism, because it's a medical term. So it is an inherited disease. I mean, sorry to say, it's not a disease. It's an inherited condition. So it's a genetic way of meeting two people that are meeting, and then they give birth to a child with
But it
albinism.
doesn't mean that your parents, was either them? No. So it could be from some, way back in terms of genes.
Yes, in terms of genes, but because when two pigmented persons meet together, they don't know.
Right.
In other families, you don't have like a person that you will give birth to a child with albinism. Right. But when you meet together and both of your families in your family line, both of them is genetically they have those traces of albinism. So it's when you meet. But when someone meet, like one is having and one doesn't, there's a possibility that you can give birth to a child with albinism, maybe not literally with everything, like the hair, the skin, and the eyes. Maybe it would be like you have a child who's short-sighted, you have a child whose hair is maybe goldish or brown, like that. So now you find that there is like those traces. But when they meet together, in both families, then they give birth to a child that is having everything like me.
Right. Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay.
So it's genetically.
Okay, so now let's go to your NGO, your non-governmental organization, Universal Change for Albinism Nobles. You can. And I think before the break, you mentioned the fact that, yes, you can. Tell us about the organization and how it came about and what you're hoping to achieve through the organization.
Thank you so much. You Can was born this year in February. As I was saying, I don't know if I maybe mention, okay. I ran an NGO at first, Western Cape Albinism and Hypopigment Foundation. I funded that organization. So it was like 2012, 2013. So when I left that organization, and then I didn't involve myself in any organization after that. So 5 years passed. And then some of the persons with albinism in Western Cape came back together to say, good people, we don't have an organization anymore. So the organization that existed, it now it fell apart. So we need to have an organization, we need to have an identity. Okay. Because now what happened is that some involve themselves in other disability organization. So now, okay, fine, in that we came together. And then when we came together, we tried, it was 2021, it was like September. So we tried, but because of the COVID and everything, then we couldn't. So again, they approached me, hey, Sister Sylvia, please, man, let's come together again. Please help us, because at least you have the experience, you know how the things are working. So go. But I didn't want, due to the experience that I had in the first one. So I said to myself, no, man, I don't want. But then when I was sitting, I said to myself, you know, the fact that I'm telling myself that I cannot, it's what I didn't want. I never want in my life to tell myself that I cannot. You know, there was a time that I even went to do a course in welding, to prove that I can. In welding, I was welding, but nevertheless. But what I'm saying is that, so we came together. We came with different names. We came with and then we had a meeting on the 19th of February, and then in the names that we had, so people came up. We say, no, we like the one that says you can, the one that you came with. So I came with that one. But for me, it was something to encourage the next person with albinism, that don't look down on yourself. You can. Just like I was saying to myself all my life that I can. So now I was saying we can. But then now I needed to, not just to say you can, but how do I put together that? What is it that we want? We want a change. And we don't want a change in the Western Cape. We want the universal everywhere. There must be a change when it comes to persons with albinism. So I came up, I built up the name, You Can, Universal Change for Persons with Albinism Nobles.
Share with us key life lessons, you know, that you have had as a young child, as a student, as a worker, as a mother, that you will be able to advise somebody like your mother now, if you see what I mean. So what are the key lessons for you, you know, while growing up, that you'll say, oh, okay, my mother didn't know what to do. A new mother now that maybe has a child with albinism, what would you share with that person? If you just share with me.
For a mother must understand that a child, any child, is a blessing from God.
Or a father, by the way.
Yes, any parent must understand that a child is a blessing from God. No one, you know, I used to say to people who will call me names, I will used to say, you know, if my mother was standing in the counter in Shoprite or in a shop and say, I want a child with albinism, then it was going to be understandable. But no parent stand anywhere to say, I want a certain child. So a mother must accept the child and then love the child. There's no special treatment just because I have an albinism. Treat your children the same, that you must treat them equally. The same, not special just because that one is different from the other one, because that itself, it creates like a crack to your children. So, and then to a person with albinism, I would say you need to accept and love yourself. It starts from there. We cannot expect people to love us if we don't love ourselves. So now you need to love yourself, and you need to understand one thing, that you are here for a reason. So I'm here for a reason, and then I want to fulfill whatever that the reason that God put me in this world. So I am here to stay. There is no other place that I would rather be. So I love myself. I accept who I am. I cannot change that.
Wow. You see me right in there. Such words of wisdom, you know, there. Now, kind of my final question. Apart from the issue of albinism, because obviously you're an ambassador and you're a voice, you know, for those without the voice in that regard, is there any social issue for you personally that you're passionate about? And if there's any, what do you think are the solution to that? So it's a two-part question. So any kind of issue, apart from, you know, what you're working on now that you're passionate about, like poverty, teenage pregnancy, anything, I don't know, old people, whatever. Is there any? And what do you think can be done?
Oh, if one thing that I can change, or I can even advise our government to, is to change the issue of vagrants on the street, that like contributing to our beautiful South Africa, because our streets are very dirty. I know that we are living in a time where we say we are free, but our freedom is costing also our life at the end, because now we are being affected by the dirtiness of the street. So if we can assist and come together to help the people that are on the street and educate them, then at least, yes, we can talk about the teenage pregnancy and then everything, because now it's because of that we need to create jobs. So all of us, we need to come together to try to create jobs for people so that we can end the poverty.
Wow. What have been some of the challenges, for you while presenting on radio?
I think the main challenge for me in the beginning, I was fresh out of school, a teenager. I didn't know that many people who I could bring onto the show to talk about things. And I was even nervous to contact people. Like,
really?
Yes, I was like, they were going to look at me like this teenager, like, okay, whatever. So that was the challenge, gaining that confidence to actually approach people and ask them, and to do it politely and try and be professional. I think that was a challenge, but I've just been learning so much.
So you were trained, or you are being trained, or you've been trained?
Well, I didn't receive formal training, but I learned through experience.
Right, on the job as you go.
Yes, ma'am, okay.
So challenges, what has been what you've been mostly proud of? As a radio presenter so far?
I think the thing that has brought me most pride is just actually giving some of these people like a platform to talk about what they do in the community. At this point in time, we are actually having a bit of a takeover by an organization called MUT, where they target areas when there's a lot of gang violence, and they provide programs for kids who are vulnerable to have like almost like a big brother. Because when the gangs target these vulnerable children, they do so to kids who don't have mentors or people they can look up to. So they kind of play that role, but then maliciously, because they are introducing them to violence and crime. So MUT does like a good Big Brother program, and they have so many programs. It's just like talking about that, letting people know about these things. Like, I think that's been the greatest thing about it.
Talk about mentors there, and we're going to stop for a break very shortly now again. Have you had any mentors or role models for you personally who have helped you, up to, because you're still young.
Yes.
But, there's so much you're saying in there for me, that I feel people need to hear, especially young people, and being Youth Month as well in South Africa. Have you had mentors, in your life? Did you choose them? Or, do you have role models, people who have impacted your life so far?
Well, I always believe that there's so much to be learned from other people. I don't think officially I've had a mentor who would like take me out and like we'd meet once a week, but there are so many women I look up. That, like, for example, there's a lady at the radio station, Lauren Jacobs. I don't even know if I've ever expressed how much I look up to her, because I like to do it in the silence. But whenever I see a powerful woman, like I try to follow them and like be like them, like you.
What are some of the life lessons that you would advise a young person that might want to go into the media world, broadcasting, print, social media, or anything that has helped you?
Yeah, I think to just go for it. honestly, like, it can feel very daunting. I'm not gonna lie, and especially if you may not have the necessary experience they might be looking for. But just go for what you believe in. If you have enough drive, you can do whatever you want to do, and I think that's just the main thing. Go for it.
Right.
Believe in yourself and take a leap of faith. You never know where you'll land.
Right. Awesome. And is that radio? I know you're on radio now. Will TV, or are you online on social media, Instagram and all that? Are those areas that you use as well to inform and entertain and educate?
Well, I was on Instagram, but you know, I'm currently in my exam period, so
Oh,
because
you need to focus.
Yes.
And your mama and papa will not allow you
They
to
will
know.
not understand. You failed. You must just pass. But yeah, so I'm usually on Instagram, but I've deactivated.
Okay.
But I'm
So you can focus on
Yes.
your exams and other things.
Yes,
And that
okay.
shows you how, in terms of even you as a young person, you know, being able to prioritize your life.
Yes.
Being able to say, okay, now this one needs to stop. You know, because those things could be distractions.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, but you need to focus on your exams, and you can come back to it.
Yes.
Get your followers. Get all the people you want to get follow you. Okay, now let me ask kind of a sensitive one, but as a child of migrant parents who came here not because they were hungry or coming here just because they just picked a place, but because God called them, to come here. What more, do you think? Because I know we know the problems for migrant people, mostly settling in, identity crisis, being blamed for a lot of stuff and so on, and xenophobia as well, and racism, even in the community, that we find ourselves is still there between black, white, colored, and so on. What more do you think can be done, and as a young person, and in your opinion, to help challenge or combat racism, xenophobia, or any form of intolerance or discrimination in South Africa?
I think the root of intolerance and every other discrimination based on something the person can't change, like their race or their ethnicity, is based in ignorance. So I think the way in which we can change that is to just school these people on why it's wrong, because for the most part, I think when people feel this way, they don't have a good reason. Maybe they've just been taught by their parents or society that just because someone is different from you, they're evil, they're horrible, you should hate them. But if you actually go out into the world and you talk to people and you just see that not everyone is the same, there's no characteristic that all people share except the fact that we're all human. So when you go out into the world and see people, although that's often not possible for many people because of their financial situations, but to go out maybe to just like Cape Town is a very multicultural city, to also have these conversations, like you said earlier, where we talk about these things so that people can see different perspectives. Two heads are, after all, better than one. So I think to put yourself in a situation where you can mix with people who are not like you, but also to mix with people like you, to have a strong support system, I think that's the best we can do. And
I'm sure through your work, you mix with people from all backgrounds, be it black, white, colored, Nigerians, Zimbabweans, and so on. So I'm sure you're already doing your bit, to make sure things like this are addressed. And you're right, intolerance is normally based on ignorance. And schooling, educating, having conversations, they're important. Now, let me go to my kind of final question. What social issue for you that you're passionate about, out there? I'm sure there must be something, that you're passionate about. But I don't want you to talk about the problem or the issue, but rather, what do you think as well are solutions? Because mostly it's all about solutions. If they're practical or not, it doesn't matter. So what issue
are you practical? Are you passionate about? Be it an issue in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, anywhere, but in Africa, focusing on Africa.
I think there are mainly three
Okay.
that are very passionate to me. The first one, which was the first one I became passionate about, was just mental health issues, which plague a lot of people, and they don't even know sometimes that that's the issue, because you can't always see a physical reaction because it affects their behavior. So I think the one way we can combat that is to educate more people about symptoms, encourage people to seek help when they have these problems, to change the stigma around people who have mental health disorders, because when there is that stigma, they do not go and seek help as much, but also when they seek help, they can seek help from someone who can actually help them and not just say it's all in your head. The next one would be issues against immigrants.
Right.
Xenophobia, racism, the violence that just generally happens, but also on an institutional level. This is something I noticed when I went to high school. A lot of my friends were also immigrants, and a lot of them had grown up in South Africa, basically as South Africans, but because of their identification, they couldn't get some of the same opportunities as some South Africans. So I feel like if we can lobby to get some help for them as well, like in terms of maybe schooling, a lot of them could not go to university despite the fact that they had the marks to go because of the affordability, but also you get held to a slightly higher standard as an immigrant, even though because I guess they assume that your schooling in another country is higher, even though you school with the same person. So to get some more institutional changes so that we're not being held back, that is another issue. And the last one, which is recent, but when I say recent, I mean within the past 3 years, it was always important to me, but it just became extremely important to me in the past 3 years, and that is femicides and violence against women and children.
Wow, what a humbling experience it was for me to hear the stories of these wonderful women who have faced so many challenges in their career, growing up, and so on, and even in the community, but still they're doing a lot to impact lives and to put back in the community. Sylvia, my dear sister, shared with us there, what some people who are living with albinism experience, and even growing up for her. Where some people even think, yes, it is a disease, but it's not. And she reminded us that, yes, people with albinism are children of God, and advising those who have children like that to embrace that. Thank you for all you're doing, Sylvia, in the community, and we continue to celebrate you, not just today or this month, but every day for what you're doing to raise an awareness of other people who face such challenge, each day, not because of what they are or who they are, but because of the color of their skin. And yes, my dear Zoe, thank you for all you're doing and how you shared your experience, from basically how you wanted to bring guests onto your program and, what people could do in terms of facing xenophobia and the tips you give to our young people to believe in themselves and to go for it. Well, this is all we've got time for today. Till next time, as we continue to celebrate amazing women who are doing things in South Africa, Africa, and the world as a whole. This is me, Mama K, signing off, saying stay safe, stay blessed, and God is love. Till next time.